to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. Please make sure that you subscribe to this channel, beloveds, because we're feeling more and more called to kind of slowly transition out of the news agenda. We will be explaining more on the Dr. Mumbi show, but we will be leaving, those shows up there for as long as Spirit tells us to, so that people can always refer back and but it's the seasons and the times that require this. And it's funny that I'm saying this on this message, and today's message really that has been so heavy on my soul is that Africa must die so that Eden can live, and so that Eden can be born and live. And Africa is dying so that Eden can live, because Africa literally never existed. Africa is too weak of a situation to be even considered a label for the land of our ancestors. And what exactly is Africa, beloveds? Africa is a figment of the Mzungu's imagination. It's part of his story. He's the one who created the name Africa. He's the one who divided the lands and called one nation Kenya and one nation Tanzania and one nation Mozambique and one nation Angola and one nation South Africa. Names that have no power, only, that have power only for him, but do not have any power. When I call on Kenya as a nation, there is nothing I get from it. And this matters and is significant because the world is first and foremost mental. We are living, the spiritual, beloveds. And I hate to just say mental. I want to expand it to spiritual. The world is first and foremost spiritual. It is it is defined and designed in a realm that many of us do not see. By the time we're seeing the series of events across our screens, our two eyes, many things have already been plotted and schemed in another realm. And so, there's been a great battle and a great war that's been going on to help us reclaim our minds and our collective mind. Many ancient ones who had already graduated from this realm, literally, have found themselves reincarnating again so that they could come with the gifts that they had acquired in their lifetimes for such a time as this great restoration of our people. But the restoration is mental, beloveds. It's spiritual. It's not physical. And I think when we think of the restoration of Africa from a spiritual, you see Africa, Eden, beloveds. I'm even going to start calling it Eden. It wasn't even Eden. It was Utopia. It was Kemet. But let's call it Eden in terms of going back to the original. You can call it Zion. Give me some name recommendations below. What should we do? What should we call? Because you see, Africa must die, beloveds, so that Eden can live. And when I say Eden, I'm referring to the ancient original kingdoms of this world, which started right where we are. And they have perpetually conquered us by defining everything about us, by defining our countries and our borders and our lakes, naming our lakes and our rivers. It's a great mashup, beloveds. Africa is this fake idea. Africa is tribes rather than nations. Tribes is like a cluster of family people who are kind of almost barbaric. Nations have very complex social, political systems. We were nations. We were never and have never been tribes. But when we belittle ourselves to the level of tribes, it disempowers the great, it disempowers us. It doesn't disempower anyone else. It disempowers us and disconnects us from the greatness of our past. And so as long as Africa continues to exist, we as a melanated people, we as a golden race, we as a black matter people will never be free. Because Africa is a figment of the Mzungu's in mind's imagination. And it was done this because we have to remember, and this is why it's such a shame that we don't tell our story and that we teach our children his story day in and day out. Because if we'd shared our story, we would know that our freedom fighters they weren't fighting for Kenya or Tanzania. They were fighting for or Ghana. They were fighting for their kingdoms. But they came together under this cause and you know why? Because Babylon said, okay, if you want to be free, then, first gain your independence as Kenya or as Zambia, as Zimbabwe. And then once you do that, then you guys can figure out, okay, half this land belongs to Tanzania, half this land belongs to Uganda, and you can rename yourselves, etc. Because he knew it was almost impossible. Because he'd already created clones. Back then it was just spiritual and mental clones. Now it's physical ones. He'd already created Africans that saw him as superior. He'd elevated the weak, the spiritually weak among us and given them power. And they, of course, abused that power. Everything has been engineered to be the way it is, beloveds. Absolutely everything. And you see, the real colonialism, the real mental colonialism began on the day every nation got its independence. That's when the real colonialism, this other stuff that was the war. The war to penetrate and get you to even call yourself something else and keep that name. That's where the real war happened. And so if you really want to be liberated as an African people, then the African in you must die so that the ancient one in you can rise and take their rightful place in humanity. Africa is dying, beloveds. The mental concept of Africa is dying. Too many people know the truth about Ethiopia, about Kemet, about us being the real Egyptians, our people being the pharaohs, our people building the pyramids, people that we have become so disconnected from, but that memory is still in our bloodline. It's our story, but we have to drop his story. We've given him too much power. And one of my Patreon family said, and it was an absolutely brilliant comment, what we gave the Mzungu is the power of definition. And he came and mashed us up with this by redefining everything, even our very souls. Africa is dying, beloveds. Don't die with it. That's why learn enough, beloveds. Raise yourself enough spiritually so that you can anchor yourself in Eden, because it is Eden that is being born again. Until next time. Tuko pamoja.